Marketplace is supported by GEP. With GEP Key, Agentic AI, and GEP Smart Software, GEP is at the forefront in agentic procurement orchestration and autonomous supply chains.
Monday, a fresh start to the week. Let's look at what lies ahead, shall we? From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Progressive Insurance. On the road and at home, customers can simplify their insurance needs and protect what's important by bundling home and auto with Progressive Insurance. Learn more about Progressive and bundling at Progressive.com. And by Amazon Business. With smart business buying, AI tools help to optimize user experience for purchases paired with delivery options built for business. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. It is Monday today, the 4th day of May. Good as always to have you along, everybody. I will tell you whatever this week brings by way of news out of the Middle East and the global economy, of which we have already had quite a bit, thank you very much, and it is only Monday. One thing the next 5 days are not going to lack for is economic data. The Labor Department's April jobs report upon us Friday morning is the biggie. There will be productivity numbers, also important. Never sleep on productivity. Data on new home sales as well. This morning, we were delivered by the Census Bureau some insights into the state of American manufacturing. To wit, new orders for manufactured goods were up 1.5% last month from a month earlier. And the thing is about that data, it is no outlier. We've had some other news of late showing orders rose in April as well. And remember, that's despite all the uncertainty surrounding the war and energy costs and tariffs, which are still very much a thing. So while you ponder why the manufacturing sector has been so upbeat lately, Marketplace's Justin Ho is on it.
One category where orders have been especially strong is electronics.
That category includes computers, computer storage devices, peripheral equipment.
That's Tim Quinlan, senior economist at Wells Fargo. He says orders of those kinds of goods are typical of business spending in general right now,
where everything that's kind of even tangentially related to this AI build out is seeing a bid in activity.
Quinlan says electronics isn't the only source of strength in manufacturing.
There were a number of other categories, from machinery to fabricated metals and wood products, that all saw, modest increases in this morning's report.
That could be because manufacturers are catching up after the president's tariffs unleashed all of that uncertainty last year, says Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing.
I do think that some of this is delayed demand that might have been sitting on the table for a while, and I do think that there is a bit more certainty now.
Paul says after the Supreme Court struck down some of the president's tariffs, businesses have at least a slightly clearer picture of where tariff policy is headed.
And otherwise, the fundamentals of the U.S. economy, setting aside, of course, energy prices and the situation with Iran, look pretty good.
It's also possible that the situation in Iran caused new orders to pick up, says Kathy Bostjancic, chief economist at Nationwide.
I think some companies tried to get ahead of potential price increases and disruptions to supply chains and try to pull in as many goods as they can.
On the other hand, Bostjancic says high energy prices, thanks to the war, could also be holding back demand.
Because that means higher input costs. That is a headwind.
Which means if the war were to end, demand for manufactured goods would rise even faster. I'm Justin Ho for Marketplace.
Wall Street today, given the aforementioned news out of the Middle East the past 18 or so hours, what do you think? Stocks down, oil up, bond traders none too pleased with any of it. We will have the details when we do the numbers. The refund process for President Trump's illegal tariffs started a couple of weeks ago, as you have probably heard. Emphasis there on the word process because, as Marketplace's Kristen Schwab reports, it is complicated.
Ann Robinson hasn't gotten any tariff money back since applying 2 weeks ago. The refund will probably take a couple months.
Nothing's happened. Still a valid claim, hasn't been rejected. I checked again this morning.
Checking her claim has become part of her routine as the owner of Scottish Gourmet USA, a specialty grocery in Greensboro, North Carolina. While she waits, she's been thinking about what she's going to do with the $30-something thousand refund. Some of it might go to her employees, who haven't gotten raises in over a year. Some might be used to stock up on inventory, and the rest might go to customers, people who've spent big on tariff-impacted goods.
Like there was a man who bought 100 boxes of shortbread. That would be a $50 gift certificate. So that's a significant chunk of change.
People who spent less, maybe paid a couple bucks in price increases, will get a discount code. Of course, Robinson doesn't have to do any of this. Why return any money at all?
It's not about lining my pocket as much as it's about building that relationship with that customer who's going to be with me for the rest of their life.
But there's something else on her mind.
I'm also scared of plaintiff lawsuits.
Consumers have filed class action lawsuits against companies including Costco, Nintendo, and Temu. The argument is businesses shouldn't profit from tariff refunds. Christine Bartholomew, a law professor at the University at Buffalo, says these cases are going to be tough for plaintiffs to win.
In class actions, you have to be able to prove how the harm can be quantified across the class in a similar fashion.
Thing is, the tariffs impacted imports from so many countries and had so many different rates that constantly changed. Bartholomew says that makes it harder to draw a straight line from tax increases to price increases.
If you have to do a product by product report, that's a tremendously expensive undertaking.
These kinds of trials can be tedious. Imagine modeling the input costs of every item a company sells, from dish soap to diapers, for a jury. And that process reveals a lot about how companies price their products, something they really do not want people to know. It's why Bartholomew thinks a lot of these cases will be settled. That can take as long as a decade. It means in the year 2036, you might get a postcard or email saying you're entitled to collect a refund on a set of sheets you bought more than 10 years ago.
It might simply be that they get a credit for $1 and they would have to spend 51 cents in a stamp to be able to get their $1.
Pretty unsatisfying. But Bartholomew says every $1 a person redeems, the company doesn't get to keep. Also, lawsuits put pressure on all businesses to respond to customers. Josh Dillon is a co-creator of Cards Against Humanity, a card game that's manufactured in China. Even though the company paid tariffs as high as 140%, it kept selling the game for $29. But retailers that sell its game raised prices. So Dillon made a website with a big, salty banner.
The Cards Against Humanity gives you your money back. Probably can't put that bit on the radio.
Anyone who bought Cards Against Humanity from any store that increased prices after the tariffs started can upload a receipt. They'll eventually get a refund on PayPal or Venmo. Dillon says the company has been vocal about tariffs since day one. They even made a deck of cards with an anti-tariff theme.
Years ago, I think it was the Chicago Sun-Times said we had the business sophistication of a lemonade stand. And I liked that ethos in the sense that, it's not that complicated. We're just trying to be nice to our customers and as respectful of them as we can.
Dillon says that's what's great about being a small company. No shareholders, no board. They can do whatever they want. I'm Kristen Schwab for Marketplace.
Spirit Airlines is no more, as you know, done in by, yes, some pre-existing challenges with its business model, but more proximately, the current global energy shock. Jet fuel in particular, which is also grounding tens of thousands of flights worldwide just as summer travel season gets going. Marketplace's Elizabeth Trowell has more on what might happen now.
Around the world, concern is rising over the future of flying, says Rystad Energy's Claudio Galimberti.
in the next few weeks, you will start to see the jet fuel shortages in quite a few places.
Especially Southeast Asia, where he says cancellations could go from sporadic to systematic. Europe will likely feel it next. And there's also California.
Because the California imports quite a good chunk of its fuels from outside, specifically from Asia.
But American travelers overall are in a much better spot than most because of how much crude oil the U.S. produces and refines, says Kareem Fawaz with S&P Global Energy.
Our jet fuel market is still relatively well supplied. Jet fuel inventories are still relatively high in the U.S.
He estimates the world has lost some 40% of traded jet fuel supply since the start of the crisis. Much of it is refined in the Middle East. So demand will have to follow. And unlike gasoline or diesel, jet fuel demand is more sensitive to rising prices.
A lot of the jet fuel consumption that's not business related is largely discretionary to begin with. So the question is how much of that can be substituted, reduced, curtailed? How elastic is it to higher prices?
The higher ticket prices go, the more likely people will opt out of flying. So Abhi Rajendran with Energy Intelligence says he does expect U.S. demand for jet fuel to come down this summer.
I think you're going to see slightly worse demand in the U.S. than expected at lower prices, but you may not actually see that much of an impact on the gasoline side because of the substitution effect of people just choosing to drive instead of flying.
Would-be Spirit Airlines flyers may opt to road trip instead, which would increase demand for gasoline at a time of already higher prices and lower global supply. I'm Elizabeth Trofall for Marketplace.
We got another reminder this morning, as if we needed it, that much like politics, business can make for strange bedfellows too. GameStop, the video game retailer, perhaps better known for its meme stock overtones, is offering an unsolicited $50 billion to buy the e-commerce site eBay, a pairing that might strike one as odd given their very different businesses. And, oh, by the way, the reality that GameStop is trying to swallow a far larger company. Marketplace's Carla Javier made some calls to find out what either company could gain or, lose from the deal.
GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen has been wanting to invest in something for a while, says Wedbush's Michael Pachter.
I thought he'd buy something for $9 billion in cash, and instead he's trying to buy something for $50+ billion in cash and stock.
Kind of like a minnow attempting to eat a whale, says Eric Talley at Columbia Law. GameStop says its stores could give eBay a physical space for intake and fulfillment. Talley says there could be other reasons.
Another one is just that they want to try to monetize the value of their stock, which, still has quite a bit of froth and bubbleness inside it before that bubble bursts. And, that's not a terrible strategy to pursue.
Though, he adds, convincing the counterparty is another matter altogether. Poonam Goyal covers e-commerce for Bloomberg Intelligence.
eBay has done remarkably well, especially over the last few years.
Maybe, Goyal says, GameStop could help eBay with attracting younger customers. But while there is some synergy in collectibles and video game sales, when it comes to handbags, watches, autos,
some of the largest categories that eBay competes in, like GameStop, just doesn't have those under its belt.
In general, the less two companies are related to or complement each other, the lower the chance the acquisition will create value, says Professor Paul Neri at the Wharton School.
Economies of scale and cost cuts, that doesn't do it for me. Maybe that's the scenario that we'll be able to get $1 billion or $2 billion.
eBay will get to consider if the offer is worth it.
If this is an offer that can reasonably lead to creation of a lot of shareholder value when they receive a high premium and close this deal,
then Neri says the board is obligated to at least give it serious consideration. I'm Carla Javier for Marketplace.
Coming up,
But then the other kind of hate we get is, I hate this. I want to sign up.
The complicated feelings of being a wedding crasher. Kinda. First, though, let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's up 557 points today, 1.1%, finished at 48,941. Did the blue chips. The Nasdaq subtracted 46 points, 0.2%, 25,067. The S&P 500 lost 29 points, 0.4%, 7,200 on the nose. The price of a barrel of oil jumped again today. West Texas Intermediate bubbled up 3.25%. Brent crude increased 5.4%. That helped push up shares in some of the refiners that make the jet fuel Elizabeth Troval was just telling us about. Marathon Petroleum rose 2.6%. Valero Energy added 1.9%. Wall Street's reaction to GameStop's unsolicited offer to buy the much larger eBay, not eBay. Not super enthusiastic either way, no matter how you pronounce it. The game retailer turned meme stock slipped 10.1%. The online marketplace pocketed 5%. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Mercury, a fintech that offers banking, credit cards, and financial software. Marketplace is supported by 3 Day Blinds, with more than 45 years designing, manufacturing, and installing custom window treatments in a range of styles, like motorized treatments for home automation. Online bookings and consultations at 3dayblinds.com. And by Solidigm, offering solid-state storage solutions optimized for AI with higher capacities, greater speed, and energy efficiency. Solidigm, AI data infrastructure built on a solid foundation. Learn more at storageforai.com. And by Million Bazillion, a Webby-winning podcast from Marketplace, teaches your little ones all about money. Listen to Million Bazillion wherever you get your podcasts.
WBEZ is supported by Grainger. WBEZ is supported by Navy Pier. Visitors can take in the skyline and Lake Michigan from 200 feet in the air on the Centennial Ferris Wheel. Navy Pier offers year-round programming and events. Learn more at navypier.org. WBEZ is supported by Symphony Center, presenting Joyce DiDonato singing the Neruda songs with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, May 7th through the 9th at Symphony Center. More at cso.org.
With journalists located all around the world, the BBC World Service can cover international stories when they happen, wherever they happen. Global news you can trust from the BBC World Service.
Overnights here on WBEZ. You're listening to your public radio station. This is 91.5 FM, WBEZ, Chicago.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Ryssdal. Most of us pay the taxes that we owe. We don't like it, but most of us do pay. The catch is some of us don't pay. That's a problem for the Internal Revenue Service at the federal level. It's a problem for states, too. But while the IRS does know how much it's not getting, states, generally speaking, don't. And that carries some costs. Josh Goodman studies state fiscal policy at the Pew Charitable Trusts. He wrote about this tax gap last month. Mr. Goodman, welcome to the program, sir. It's good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Just so we all have the same terminology here and to make sure that I don't mess it up, what is, in your mind, a tax gap?
Yep. A tax gap is the difference between taxes owed and taxes paid. So if you imagine what everyone would pay if they paid every dollar they were supposed to, and then you subtract what they actually pay, that difference is the tax gap.
Got it. And as you point out in this piece, the Internal Revenue Service at the federal level has a reasonably good handle on what the tax gap is. States, though, are a different matter. And there's a lot to talk about there. But in a nutshell, why?
Well, the big reason is that states simply haven't asked this question, or at least haven't required sort of a public-facing analysis of this question. So as you said, the IRS estimates the tax gap at the federal level. Their most recent estimate showed that the tax gap was over $600 billion. But states only very rarely have analyzed the tax gap. So states really don't know how big of a problem this is.
Is analyzing a tax gap hard?
It is hard, definitely.
Oh.
And the biggest reason it's hard is because the largest part of the problem isn't people who don't file at all. It isn't people who file correctly but then don't pay, although both of those things are part of the problem. The biggest part of the problem is people who file but underreport their income. And so you can just think about it. It's hard to figure out if people are saying they made this amount, but they actually made that amount. Or, maybe they're reporting things as business expenses that aren't business expenses, things like that. Getting a handle on it is difficult. That being said, the IRS and others have proven that you can do these estimates and that they are valuable.
I wonder, though, if the IRS doesn't, in a way, have it easy, because mostly they're worried about an income tax, right? States, though, have state and local property taxes. They've got sales taxes. They've got income. I mean, they got a lot of different kinds of taxes.
Absolutely. And so that is a big difference between the federal level and the state level is, these other taxes. The IRS also has it easier in another way, which is that one way you get a handle on that underreporting is by doing lots and lots of audits, including random audits rather than, ones targeted to people. And so the IRS has always historically had more capacity to do those audits than, say, a state tax department has.
You say capacity, and I hear it's a labor force problem, that there aren't a lot of people who are going to work for state tax agencies.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a problem that seems like it's growing, where it's an aging workforce. States have struggled to recruit for these roles. One thing that the research is really clear on is if you have more people doing good work for tax agencies, including processing returns, but also audits and other kinds of enforcement roles, then you collect more revenue. And so if states don't have enough capacity, enough staff in those roles, or if they don't have experienced staff, it could lead these tax gaps to get even bigger. Right.
You say something really interesting near the end of this report that you put out. You point out that, if revenue in a given state suddenly fell by like 12 or 13%, which is sort of, Connecticut did a study and that's what it came up with. But if revenue was down 12 or 13% out of nowhere, lawmakers would be going crazy. And that's kind of the tax gap, right, in Connecticut.
Absolutely. It's in Connecticut and in the federal estimates. So out of every $8 that should be paid, only 7 are. And I think the size of those numbers really shows why this is a topic that deserves more attention than it has received. That governments are always making hard choices. Right now, they have especially hard choices because many states have budget shortfalls or long-term budget deficits, and they're talking about things like raising taxes or cutting services such as Medicaid. And if instead governments could collect more of what they're already owed, they'd have money to spend on their priorities. They could avoid some of those unpleasant choices. But the starting point of that is really figuring out how big of a problem it actually is.
Right. Can't manage what you don't measure, right?
Absolutely.
Josh Goodman, he is a senior officer of state fiscal policy at the Pew Charitable Trust. Mr. Goodman, thanks for your time, sir. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Spring has sprung, the calendar has turned, and peak wedding season is upon us once again. May through October are typically the high months, and according to the wedding planning site The Knot, the average cost per wedding guest in 2026 is close to $300. Cue the standard warning here, by the way, about inflation possibly driving that number higher. What if, though, you could offset some of that cost with paying guests? Here's today's installment of our series, My Economy.
My name is Jeff Besson.
And my name is Karina Besson.
We've been married for almost 20 years, and we're based in San Diego, California.
And we're the co-founders of Not a Wedding Crasher. So we're always trying to do weekly date nights. We usually go to the movies, the beach, comedy, and we started running out of things to do. Jeff was like, hey, I wish that we could go to a wedding. And I would reply with, well, we don't know anyone getting married, Jeff.
And I said, wait a minute, what if there's a way you could just go to a wedding, but you're not actually crashing it, you're intentionally invited? Got a developer, and we formally launched Not a Wedding Crasher in the middle of March. So couples that have extra seats at their wedding put those, let's say it's 10 seats that are available on our platform. We have a whole pool of verified guests interested in attending a wedding and will pay for a unique experience.
The couples get to choose what they feel their wedding is worth.
We have about 300 guests already on the platform signed up, waiting for weddings to pop up in their area. And I think we have 5 live weddings pretty spread out throughout the country right now. Some people are like, this is the dumbest idea ever.
But then the other kind of hate we get is, I hate this. I want to sign up.
Yeah. Right. Which is a little, you have a little whiplash, but it's been overwhelmingly positive, the feedback that we've gotten. Of the people that have already signed up, a number of them are couples that want to get a wedding inspiration, or it's a group of ladies that want to have a girls' night out.
We've also had a decent amount of people from the wedding industry sign up. They are often working during weddings and they never get to actually appreciate them and have a good time.
I have a finance I've been mostly a corporate finance person for my career. I'm doing this on my spare time, like at 3 a.m. in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. And Karina's doing a lot during the daytime. And we get together in the mornings or in the evenings and discuss what has happened throughout the day to figure out what emails do we need to answer. So we're juggling that. We have 3 kids. So it's a busy household, to say the least. I
was just going to say that sometimes helping each other out with the business looks like taking over the kids so one of us could take a phone call.
Yeah, it's definitely a new dynamic. And in a lot of ways, it's actually helped us get closer.
It was actually very comical in the beginning when we first started this, and I would walk down the stairs and I'd see Jeff in his office and he'd just be scrolling wedding content and like Pinterests, and I'm like, geez, my husband has become a bride.
That is a true story.
It's very funny.
Jeff and Karina Besson, they are in San Diego, California. Tell us about your economy, would you? Maybe, I don't know, how much your date nights are costing you? You can do it at marketplace.org.
Marketplace is supported by Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. And by Odoo.com, offering integrated programs for sales, customer relationship management, inventory, and other business operations, designed to work together as a customizable software suite. Odoo, all your business on one platform.
This final note on the way out today, which I'm going to preface with this statement of fact. Despite the lies that President Trump tells about it, there is zero evidence that American economic statistics are being manipulated to make him look bad. You'll remember he fired the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor Statistics last August in service of that lie. That's point number 1. Point number 2 comes from a new paper from the National Bureau of Economic Research. The operative phrase here is the marginal value of public trust in official statistics. The NBER estimates that preserving trust in government data generates economic benefits of about $25 for every $1 spent on the BLS's budget. Amir Babawi, Caitlin Esch, John Gordon, Noya Carr, Steve Mullis, and Stephanie Seek are the Marketplace editing staff. Kelly Silvera is the news director. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APM.
This is really the danger zone of violent populism. And we are now coming up to